Hey everybody, Nick Espinosa, your chief security fanatic here, and it is Sunday, so we are doing breaches of the week. And this week in data breaches is like every other week, just fast and furious, nonstop. But as always, I want to start by thanking Todd Moore, Phil Durbin, Liz Rinjola, and Steve Burgess for sending me a good chunk of these. It always helps me out. Please keep sending these tips my way. And with that, let's keep rolling, and let's start with PowerSchool. Now, as you know, I've been talking about PowerSchool for, it seems like a couple of months now at least. One of the biggest breaches, right now, the biggest breach of 2025. And we just learned in the past week that now Canada is reporting that 2.4 million Canadian kids are now caught up in this, and that is the latest news. But obviously, we have a lot of different school districts that are still continuing to essentially alert everybody to this. So just pretty much check in with your school district if they're running PowerSchool. With that, let's keep moving. Star Solution Services. On February 5th, they filed with Maine after they found a third party gaining access, unfortunately, into their network. Consumer data was hit, including names and social security numbers, and Star Solutions is sending out letters to those impacted. So heads up to you if you use Star Solution Services for all your solutions for stars, whatever it is. With that, let's hit our mini segment pretty much right out of the gate here, simply entitled, If You Just Spent Money on Cybersecurity, You Wouldn't Be Getting Sued and You Wouldn't Be Ruining Your Reputation, and I sure as heck wouldn't be talking about you. So, first up is Newsbank. Now, they provide a database of archived news publications that are utilized by libraries, higher education systems, and other organizations. They apparently suffered a security incident regarding their employees' personal information between June and July of last year. So, the lead plaintiff claims that as an employee from January 2023 through November of 2024, they were required to provide personal information, aka names, date of birth, social security numbers, financial account information, basically everything you need if you're going to be an employee somewhere, and here we are. They got hit. So, we'll see what happens there, but heads up, Newsbank employees. Moving on. Change Healthcare, this is the big one, obviously from 2024. A district court judge has set a March 2025 deadline for Change Healthcare to file motions to dismiss certain claims raised in multiple complaints in response to their massive 2024 data breach and ransomware attack back in February. Now, many lawsuits were filed in response to that data breach. I've covered quite a bit of them here, and so obviously that is a huge issue. Roughly 1/3 of all Americans that have prescriptions were impacted by this. And so those lawsuits were consolidated in federal, consolidated in multi-district litigation due to the common questions of basically fact and law. So by virtue of that, this is being overheard by the U.S. District Court Judge Donovan Frank of the District of Minnesota. And essentially, we'll see what happens here, but obviously this is moving forward, and everybody's expecting Change Healthcare to really pay out quite a bit. But those are the two ones this week. It wasn't that crazy, but hey, if they had just spent money on cybersecurity, they wouldn't be having their reputations ruined, they wouldn't be getting sued, and I definitely wouldn't be complaining about them right here. And with that, let's move back into breaches and head on over to the UK, because we want to talk about the financial technology firm Finastra. Now, I basically talked about them a couple of months ago, and and my notes here are mentioning that they were notifying customers about 3 months ago or so. So between October 31st through November 8th, essentially they got hit through their file transfer platform, and by virtue of that, they started reaching out to individuals basically on February 12th of 2025. So in other words, I talked about them months back. Now they're just starting to come to light. And so by virtue of that, or rather inform those people that were caught up in this. And so by virtue of that, here we are. So your sensitive customer information, names, financial account details are now confirmed as they are essentially sending this out. So heads up if you use Finastra for all your financial whatever. Moving on. Let's talk about HipShipper. They are a global shipping platform used by sellers on Amazon, eBay, and Shopify in over 150 countries. They accidentally exposed millions of shipping labels with personal customer information. Obviously, you know what goes on a shipping label, your name and address. Now, this leak happened in December of 2024, but wasn't fixed until January of this year, and they reportedly leaked over 14 million customer shipping records. So if you've bought anything on Amazon, eBay, and Shopify in over 150 countries, wherever you are, heads up to you. Moving on. Let's talk about the U.S. Coast Guard. They're in the midst of investigating a data breach within basically their personnel and payroll system that delayed biweekly payments for 1,135 service members. Now, I briefly mentioned this in my last breaches of the week, but that is the new information, is that payments are delayed, and the Coast Guard said they temporarily shut down their direct access system while they investigate the breach, and so service members' direct deposit accounts were compromised. It's unclear what kind of data besides basically the bank account information of a service member may have been exposed. So heads up to you if you are a member of the U.S. Coast Guard or serving in the Coast Guard. Just I would keep an eye on it to make sure it's just 1,100 of you. So with that, let's move on to Phoenix Rehabilitation and Nursing Center. On February 20th of this year, Atlantis Operating LLC, aka Phoenix Rehabilitation and Nursing Center, just known as Phoenix Rehab, issued a press release describing a third-party data breach of one of their vendors. I do not know which vendor this is, but names, addresses, medical info, and social security numbers were hit. Phoenix Rehab is sending out notices as well. Moving on. Let's talk about Ottawa Family Physicians. I believe this is Ottawa in the United States, not the capital of Canada, because on February 13th, they filed with Health and Human Services here in the United States, Office of Civil Rights, after discovering an unauthorized actor accessed their data. Ottawa Family Physicians said that full names, addresses, dates of birth, and medical information were caught up in this, and Ottawa Family Physicians are sending out notices as well. Moving on, the University of Massachusetts Amherst on February 7th, they filed with Massachusetts, obviously, after discovering confidential information was subject to unauthorized access. Names and social security numbers were caught up. I do not know more than that. And UMass Amherst is sending out notifications. So if you work there or go to school there, heads up to you. Moving on. Jewish Child Care Association of New York, or JCCA, on January 31st, they filed with Health and Human Services, basically saying that they got hit in their computer systems, and JCCA explained that essentially sensitive information, including names, social security, medical information, health insurance information, driver's license numbers, state IDs, financial account information, and dates of birth were caught up in this. After basically their investigation, JCCA is sending out notices as well. I'm never a fan when basically institutions that help with childcare get hit, or nonprofits. So hopefully the Jewish Child Care Association of New York will get back on their feet soon. Moving on. Accounting firm Blue & Co. on February 7th, they filed with Health and Human Services unauthorized access into their systems. Sensitive information. I do not have essentially a list of what that is, but accounting firm Blue & Co. is sending out notices. Moving on, Claris Vision on Valentine's Day, they filed with Massachusetts after discovering an unauthorized party was in their network. That makes it a really fun and romantic day, doesn't it, Claris Vision? So they explained sensitive information was hit, and apparently the incident affected patients across basically the following facilities that they own: iHealth Associates, iHealth Associates of Rhode Island, Koch or Koch Eye Associates LLP, Candescent Eye Surgery Center, St. James Surgery Center, and Candescent Eye Health Surgery Center, aka Greater New Bedford Surgery Center. And so by virtue of it, Claris Vision and all those entities are sending out notices, so heads up to you patients. Moving on, Lee Enterprises on February 9th, reports began to emerge that Lee Enterprises had suffered a ransomware attack. They said they had a cyber event and essentially information in their possession was taken. I do not have a list of what was taken, or what was exposed rather, but Lee Enterprises will be sending out notices. Moving on, the city of McKinney on November 14th, they became aware of a security incident on its IT network. The third party gained access on Halloween of last year and may have accessed certain files. On December 30th, they basically said that information was, as a result of this, hit. Now, we're talking names, address, social security numbers, driver's license info, government-issued IDs like passports, state ID cards, etc., financial information, including account number, credit or debit card number, medical information, health insurance information, and date of birth. So, heads up to you, employees, citizens, whomever, of the city of McKinney. Not sure where McKinney is. Moving on, let's head down under and talk about an Australian IVF clinic known as Genea. Now, they suffered a cyber incident resulting in data being accessed by an unauthorized party. And on a statement on February 19th, they say they are quote unquote urgently investigating the incident to understand what, if any, personal information was breached. Genea has multiple clinics across Australia serving thousands of Aussies. So, heads up to you if you use Genea down under for IVF. Moving on. Consultants in pain medicine coming out of Texas. Basically, on February 14th, CPM, Consultants of Pain Medicine, filed with basically Texas after discovering an unauthorized access into their network. Sensitive information they're saying was hit: name, social security, dates of birth, driver's license, state IDs, financial account info, passport numbers, medical information, health insurance policy information, and more. Consultants in Pain Medicine, or CPM, is sending notices out as well. Moving on, let's head on over to Florida and talk about Slim CD. They are a payment processor, apparently, because about 1.7 million consumers in both the United States and Canada may have had their data exposed as a result of this. Now, Slim CD is sending emails to customers that had basically their information that may have been accessed anytime between August of 2023 through June of 2024. So almost a year of exposure. Not good, guys. All right, and so by virtue of that, here we are. Now, Slim CD provides software systems to merchants, allowing them to take electronic payments, etc. And so obviously this is not a good look. Moving on. Burlington Hydro in Ontario, Canada. They are notifying customers of a data breach. Basically, the utility's director of communications confirmed that they basically were notified January 22nd that a third-party vendor had experienced a data breach, which potentially exposes Hydro customers' personal information. The incident was reported to the Office of Information and Privacy Commissioner of Ontario, IPC, which confirmed that it was notified by Burlington Hydro about this incident on January 27th. A spokesperson at the time said the IPC is, quote, looking into the incident and cannot share additional details at this time, and they're not speculating on the completion of review in terms of time frame. So heads up to you if you get your power from Burlington Hydro in Ontario. Not good. And finally, and this was a little bit of a shorter week, we have to talk about tech investment firm Insight Partners. Now, I want to explain why they're the finally this week, because they had a data breach like everybody else. But Insight Partners actually owns equity. They hold equity in several major tech companies, including, and I'm sure you've heard of some of these, Wiz, Udemy, Checkmarx, Cvent, Hootsuite, Recorded Future, SentinelOne, Shopify, Veeam, Twitter, Docker, Acronis, AirWatch by VMware, AnyDesk, BeyondTrust, BMC, Chegg, Colab, Darktrace, Kaseya, and an absolute metric ton more. Now, Insight Partners suffered a data breach in January stemming from what they described as a quote-unquote sophisticated social engineering attack. Now, in a statement published this past Tuesday, the private equity firm basically said that they initially detected unauthorized access to, quote, certain Insight information systems, end quote, on January 16th. Insight Partners did not specify the systems or what was impacted by the attack. And obviously, this is a huge issue. They have invested in more than 800 companies worldwide since 1995 and are a global leader in investments in things like IT and software sectors. So this is a major one. And it's a major one because the potential damage that this could do to a whole bunch of companies if the attackers are sophisticated enough to be able to really start spoofing Insight Partners with a whole bunch of Insight information that they shouldn't have access to. And by virtue of that, they can go to the Darktraces or Kaseyas of the world and say, hey, I'm Bob, your Insight, Partners person, spoofing Bob, and then boom, maybe possibly get access. Or maybe Insight Partner has some kind of access to review financial information and data, but not necessarily the inner working. So the social engineering aspect of this is a huge issue. The supply chain, potential supply chain issue here is also huge, especially if Insight Partners can be now leveraged in some way, shape, or form to gain access into a whole bunch of IT and security platforms, not to mention a whole bunch of other companies as well. And so this obviously is a huge, huge issue. I'll keep you up to date on this, but this is essentially the way of the world these days, and we've got to make sure that we're maintaining good cyber hygiene. And quite frankly, it behooves all of us to really do that in our personal lives, not just corporate and government. So we'll see what happens, but those were your breaches of the week. Yeah, we're just going to say you were impacted just like I was. I'm pretty sure I was too. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP. And please feel free to subscribe to me at YouTube as well. And as always, stay safe, stay online, and please, please, please attempt to stay private and informed. Take care.